Steven's Lion, the 10th episode of Steven Universe, chronologically speaking. There will be spoilers in this episode for a lot of different episodes, so keep that in mind going forward. This episode is the beginning of kind of an arc where we start to get some real definitive answers about Steven and what he is and the gems and what they are. And it's not a coincidence that this comes as Lion is introduced to the show, as most of the things that we learn about Rose Quartz going forward in the series stem from Lion himself. It's almost as if he was planted there to teach Steven about Rose, which I think is pretty obvious that he was at this point. And I think it's even more obvious that the writers introduced him specifically so they could teach us, the viewer, about Rose without Pearl or Garnet or Amethyst knowing any more about Rose than the writers wanted them to at this point in the series. Because Rose definitely has some big secrets that she kept from everybody. Except maybe Greg. I think Greg might know a few things about Rose that he doesn't realize were secret and just hasn't told the other gems about because he didn't realize they were secret, but that's for an entirely different discussion. This episode, in terms of its general plot, are even more simple than the last one. The gems, along with Steven, go to a desert to get the desert glass, which is a glass crystal sitting on a pillow, like yay big, that makes pillars out of sand if any part of it touches the sand. And that includes the pillow, because the Crewniverse has actually come out and said that the pillow itself is the desert glass's generated body, which puts the desert glass in that camp of really weird gems, corrupted gems, that don't really fit with any of the other ones that we've seen throughout the majority of the series, and they're really weird, and I want to know what's up with them, but no one will tell me. Calming breaths. Anyway, so they're in the desert, and Steven stumbles across this big pink lion that seems not quite tame, but at least non-aggressive. And he takes to it immediately. He wants a pet lion. So do I. I think a large majority of people want a pet lion that won't eat them, obviously, just because lions are so freaking cool. So he is ecstatic when the lion somehow follows him home, even though he returned home through the warp pad, and the lion shouldn't have been able to follow him, which is actually a hint to one of the lion's later powers. And at first it seems like the lion isn't actually interested in Steven, didn't actually follow Steven. It looks like it followed the desert glass. But then you realize that it's actually protecting Steven from the desert glass, because the desert glass does become active again, and it starts building some kind of fortress on the beach and is a huge danger. And Steven and Lion team up to retrieve the desert glass so that it can be bubbled and stored, and this doesn't happen again. And this isn't the only time that we see Lion behaving this way. We see him at one point eating a creature that seems to be in some way a gem, assuming that he went out and defeated that creature so that it wouldn't hurt Steven or the other crystal gems or some combination of the two at a later date. And we do find out in the other Lion episodes, Lion 2, the movie, and Lion 3 straight to video, that Lion definitely did have some kind of connection with Rose. We just don't know what it is yet. So in terms of story, a little simplistic, but in terms of expanding the lore, this episode is fantastic. It sets so many things in motion, and I think it is really one of the major turning points of the first season of the show, which is why it's kind of weird that there really isn't that much more to say about it. I mean, I'll be talking about Lion a lot more as this review series progresses, but this episode in and of itself doesn't actually give us that much. It just kind of dangles the hook out in front of us, which normally I hate, but for some reason when this show does it, it's only mildly infuriating. Anyway, guys, what did you think of this episode? Would you like to have a pet lion if it were possible to have one that wouldn't eventually eat you? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.